The warden said no at first. In 30 years, no inmate on death row had ever asked to see a dog. But then, as the morning sun crawled across the concrete floor of the holding chamber, inmate number 4128, Lucas Remy, repeated his request. "Just let me see her. 1 minute. That's all I need." Outside in the cold dawn light, the retired K9 waited beside an unmarked white van. No tail wag, just a stillness, like she already knew. And when they finally opened the steel door, no one, not the guards, not the chaplain, was prepared for what would happen in that room. It was still dark when the van pulled into the side gate of Briar Ridge Penitentiary. Fog curled low across the yard like breath from a tired ghost. The warden's office windows glowed dimly overhead, but no one was inside, just the COs down by the Sally Port, murmuring like men at a funeral. Inmate number 4128, Lucas Remy, sat cuffed at the wrists and ankles, chain linking him to the floor beneath the folding metal chair. The execution chamber was 5 doors away, 42 steps. The carpet had been changed recently. The state liked to keep things sterile. Clean death. The guards weren't talking to him. They hadn't since 4 a.m. final count. No eye contact either. But Lucas didn't care. His eyes were on the corner clock. 5:49 a.m. "Still time," he said quietly. Chaplain Miller sat beside him, clutching a worn leather Bible to his chest like a life preserver. He'd visited Lucas every week for 6 years. He was sweating now, though the room was cold. "They've cleared it," the chaplain whispered. "She's on her way in." Lucas nodded, mouth tight. His knuckles were bloodless where the cuffs bit into his wrists. His body had gone thin since the conviction, skin stretched tight over bone and regret. But his jaw was still stubborn, eyes still wolf-sharp. Not sorry. Never said he was. There were 2 things the papers loved to print about Lucas Remy. 1, that he used to be a cop. 2, that he killed another one. But that's not what she remembered. The door creaked open. At first, all Lucas saw were boots, gray, worn leather pads against the tile floor. Then the leash. Then the dog. She stepped in slowly, scanning the room, head low, not cautious, just focused, the way she always was on a scent trail. She was old now, graying muzzle, hip sag from arthritis, but still carried herself like she had rank. The Belgian Malinois' ears lifted when she saw him. Lucas looked up. He tried to speak, but his voice cracked, caught behind something in his throat that had nothing to do with age or fear. "Hey, girl," he rasped. She blinked slowly, padded toward him. The room was silent, but for the soft slap of her paws on tile. One of the guards shifted behind her, nervous, but the chaplain didn't move. He just watched. The dog, her name was Delta, came to a stop a foot away from Lucas. The leash went slack. She looked at him for a beat. Then she sat down. It was the first time anyone had looked at him without fear in 6 years. "You remember me," he said. She licked her lips. Her tail thumped once. That was all it took. Lucas hunched forward, chain rattling between cuffs, eyes burning. He let out a breath like a man who'd held it since the trial. Delta leaned forward, placed one paw on his shin. Good girl. 5 years earlier. Rutherford County, TN. Population, 6,308. The day it all started, the town was already chewing on tragedy. Lucas had just gotten back from AK-9 sweep near the Cumberland line. Late summer. Wet leaves plastered the cruiser's tires, and Delta, younger then, barked once at a possum darting across the road, but otherwise kept her nose to the floorboard. They were 30 minutes from shift's end when the call came. Officer down. Gunshot wound. Franklin Farm Road. Backup requested. Lucas's hands tightened around the wheel. Delta lifted her head. Officer Shane Harland. Same badge. Same unit. Lucas punched the gas. They arrived 7 minutes later. Sirens echoed up the ridge, red and blue strobing across damp corn stalks. Deputies had already sealed off the barn. Yellow tape fluttered like weak fire. Shane was on the ground, bleeding out from the gut. Lucas dropped beside him, pressed hard on the wound. "Stay with me," he hissed. Didn't see him coming. Shane choked. Lucas watched the But he never finished. They pulled the bullet. .308 rifle round. Same caliber Lucas kept locked at home in a gun safe. Only 2 people knew the code to. Lucas and his wife, Mara. 2 days later, Lucas Remy was arrested for the murder of his partner. Back in the holding chamber, Delta was resting her head on Lucas's knee. He stroked her muzzle gently, like something sacred. The chaplain broke the silence. "Why the dog?" Lucas kept petting her. "She's the only thing that ever saw what really happened. You never testified. Didn't matter. The jury decided before I opened my mouth." The chaplain studied him. "Lucas, you're running out of time." Lucas nodded, then listened carefully. The trial had been vicious. No weapon found at the scene, but ballistic matches tied the bullet to a gun registered under Lucas's name. The rifle? Missing. The theory was simple. Harlan found out about something Lucas was into. Maybe drugs. Maybe trafficking. Something dark. And Lucas shut him up. Mara, Lucas's wife, testified that she hadn't seen the gun in weeks. Claimed she thought he'd pawned it. Claimed he'd got me. She cried on the stand. The jury believed her. What they didn't know, what no one ever heard, was that Delta had tracked a second scent that night. One that led away from the barn. One the department never logged. Lucas tried to explain it once. They called it obstruction. He stopped talking after that. In the execution wing, the warden leaned into the doorway. 3 minutes. Lucas didn't respond. Just gave a final scratch behind Delta's ear and leaned in close. "Where is she, girl?" Delta whined softly, then looked toward the chaplain. Miller blinked. "What?" "She always did that when she wanted me to follow. Remember that?" The chaplain hesitated. "Lucas, go to her. Right now. Please. Just trust me." The chaplain hesitated, then stepped toward the dog. Delta got up, moved to the door, looked back, waited, then padded down the hall. They shouldn't have followed the dog, but they did, down past the chapel, around the intake wing, to the unused corner office where boxes lined the walls. Delta scratched once at a cabinet drawer. The chaplain opened it. Inside, a file, stamped across the top in red, "Unsubmitted evidence. Shane Harlan/L. Remy case." A small, sealed plastic bag sat tucked inside, and inside that, a second .308 slug. Distorted. Fired. Recovered from a separate scene 2 months before Harlan's death. Same signature striations. Same gun. Different crime. Suppressed. Buried. Someone had hidden it. And at the bottom of the folder, in handwriting the chaplain recognized immediately, Sheriff M. Harlan, Shane's older brother. The one who ran the investigation. The one who swore Lucas had turned dirty. The one who disappeared 6 months after the verdict. Back in the chamber, Delta returned alone. Lucas looked up at the clock. 6:01 a.m. The door opened. A guard leaned in. "Execution's been postponed." Lucas didn't breathe, just stared. Governor's office ordered a hold. Emergency injunction. He looked at Delta, and for the first time in 6 years, Lucas smiled. Lucas Remy sat in the concrete walled, holding cell 2 floors beneath the chamber where he was supposed to die. His chains were gone, but so was a certainty. No one had told him much, just that his execution was stayed, his case under urgent review, and that a federal lawyer was inbound. He hadn't seen Delta since the chaplain took her away. He stared at the flickering fluorescent light overhead. The smell of old bleach lingered in the air, sharp and raw. He'd lived years in cages like this. But now the silence wasn't punishment. It was possibility. And that was worse. Because if hope crept back in and they shut that door again, it'd kill him harder than any needle. Footsteps echoed down the hall. Keys jingled. Then the cell door scraped open. Warden Dunleavy stood with 2 agents, dark suits, government IDs. Lucas didn't recognize their faces, but he knew their type, lean, cold, and not here to waste time. "Mr. Remy," the taller one said, flipping open a folder, "you're aware your execution has been delayed." Lucas gave a slight nod. Heard something about a file. "More than a file," the other agent said. She slid a photo across the table. Lucas blinked. There, in black and white, was a shell casing. His casing. But recovered from a break-in 2 months before Shane was shot. A robbery gone wrong. Victim survived. Suspect fled. Gun never found. This ballistics match was never submitted, the man said. Found in a storage drawer. Buried under a false log. Same rifle. Different scene. The casing was checked into evidence by a deputy named Cameron Wilkes. Lucas finished. They paused. He was my patrol partner before Shane. Lucas said, used to ride with me and Delta. Quiet guy. Played dumb a lot, but he noticed everything. He resigned a week after your arrest. Lucas leaned forward. Where is he now? The agent checked her notes. That's why we're here. He disappeared 2 years ago. But if he's alive, he could be the key to proving you didn't fire that gun. Or revealing who did. Lucas gritted his teeth. I'm not asking for a miracle. I just want the truth. Warden Dunleavy finally spoke. You'll be released into supervised custody while the investigation reopens. Temporarily. This isn't an exoneration. Lucas didn't answer. His hands had gone still on the table. What about Delta? He asked. The chaplain's voice floated in from the doorway. She's outside. She wouldn't leave. They were 30 minutes outside Rutherford when Delta perked up in the back of the SUV. The leash sat loose beside her, but she didn't need it. Not anymore. She pressed her nose to the glass, tracking the blur of pine and fence posts. Lucas glanced back at her. What is it, girl? Agent Fields, now his escort, kept his eyes on the road. We're going to the old Wilkes place. He had a trailer out near Hollow Creek. Been abandoned since 2023. Locals think he lit out for Texas. Locals don't know Wilkes, Lucas muttered. The gravel road narrowed. Red clay spit up behind them. A mailbox leaned sideways under a tangle of kudzu. 23 Hollow Creek Lane. They pulled up slow. The trailer sat like a discarded cigarette. Burned at the edges. Windows boarded. Door hanging half off its hinges. The air smelled of mildew and wet bark. Crickets had gone silent. Delta was out before they even stopped fully. Hold up. Fields barked. Lucas stepped out fast. Let her go. Delta circled the yard once, nose low, then stiffened. She darted to the left side of the trailer, disappearing behind the rusted propane tank. Lucas followed. That's when he saw it. Scratch marks on the tin siding. Deep, fresh. She found something. Fields rounded the corner and froze. Delta was pawing at a pile of old lumber and tarp. Beneath it, a wooden cellar door. Nailed shut. Lucas didn't wait. He grabbed a crowbar from the back of the SUV and yanked the boards free. The door groaned open, and a breath of cold, rotten air surged up like something exhaled from the past. A narrow staircase led down. No power. Fields said, clicking his flashlight. Stay behind me. But Delta didn't wait. She descended slow, tail stiff. Lucas followed, heart pounding. At the bottom, the air thickened. The walls were stone mortar crumbling. Filing cabinets lined one side. On the far wall, a corkboard covered in photographs, maps, and clipped headlines. One photo stopped Lucas cold. Mara, his wife, standing in a hallway beside Sheriff Marcus Harland. Smiling, he stepped closer. Lines connected the photo to others. Shane's badge, his service record, and an old arrest report for Wilkes. Lucas stared at the wall. Jesus, Fields whispered. This is a blackmail board. Delta whined. There, under a stack of papers, a hard drive. Lucas held it like it might bite. Get this to forensics, he said. Now. Back at the precinct. Things move fast. Too fast. The hard drive contained recorded conversations, secret audio files. One was labeled MH_meeting_Mara_12.02.20. They played it in the conference room. Lucas stood in the back, arms crossed. Delta sat at his feet. The recording crackled, then cleared. Mara, if he finds out, I'm done. You said this would fix things. Sheriff Harland, it will, if you stay quiet. Shane's getting nosy. Lucas won't be a problem after this. You just stick to the story. Mara, I'm not lying for you again. Harland, You already did. A pause. Then, Harland. Wilkes has the gun. I told him to disappear. The rest? We pin it on Lucas. No one will question it. Lucas stood still. Everyone else stared at the speaker, like it had started leaking poison. The DA called within the hour. They didn't find Wilkes until 3 days later. He was living under an assumed name in a retirement trailer park in Arkansas, paranoid and thin. When they brought him in, he wouldn't speak until they showed him the recordings. He broke in under 10 minutes. Yes, I took the gun. Yes, I planted it. Marcus Harland said if I didn't, he'd pin the robbery on me. The one with the .308. He had it all worked out. Said he'd make it look like Lucas killed Shane out of spite. Why? Wilkes swallowed hard. Because Lucas was sleeping with Mara, and Marcus wanted to bury both of them. Lucas didn't speak for a long time. He sat alone in a break room with Delta curled at his feet. One of the deputies brought coffee, then left without a word. The town was different now. Same buildings, same roads, but the quiet felt heavier, like it knew what had allowed to happen. The chaplain arrived with a sealed envelope. Governor signed it, he said softly. Full exoneration. Lucas opened the letter. Read it once. Didn't react. Truth help any? Miller asked. Lucas shook his head. Don't bring a dead man back. Later that night, Lucas stood on the porch of the house he used to call home. It had new siding now, a fresh welcome mat. Someone else lived here. Mara didn't answer when he knocked, but a curtain moved upstairs. Delta stared up at the window. She didn't bark, didn't move. Lucas bent down beside her. She doesn't owe us anything, he said. He left the papers in her mailbox. No note, just the truth. The diner off County Route 19 hadn't changed in decades. Same chipped linoleum floors. Same smell of burnt coffee and griddle grease. The same window view of open pasture and telephone poles stretching into the haze. Lucas sat in a booth near the back, facing the door. Delta lay curled on the table, her eyes half closed but always watching. It had been a week since his name was cleared. No parades, no press conference, just a form handed to him, stating the state of Tennessee acknowledged a wrongful conviction. Compensation was being reviewed. Meanwhile, his house was gone, his marriage dead, and half the town still wouldn't look him in the eye. The other half just stared too long. The bell over the diner door jingled. Lucas didn't turn at first. He'd come here hoping she wouldn't show, and terrified she might. Mara walked in slow, like someone stepping into a memory she didn't trust. Her hair was shorter, her eyes heavier. She looked older than the last time he saw her, and not just in years. When she spotted him, she paused just for a second, then walked over and slid into the booth across from him. I didn't expect you to call, she said. Lucas didn't answer. Not right away. He poured her a cup of coffee from the pot on the table. She accepted it with a nod. You knew, he said finally. Didn't you? Mara looked down into the cup. I knew Marcus hated you. I knew he'd do anything to protect his brother. And, yeah, I knew you, and I made things worse. Lucas's jaw tightened. I didn't know he'd kill Shane, she added. He didn't. Mara looked up. Wilkes said Marcus wanted Shane gone, but someone else pulled the trigger. Marcus didn't trust himself to do it. Too clean, too traceable. Her voice dropped. So who? Lucas looked out the window. A tractor rolled down a distant hill, just a silhouette in dust. I think it was someone we both trusted. Someone who didn't want the truth coming out. About Marcus. About you. About me. Mara's lips parted. Then, slowly, she shook her head. You think I did it. No, he said. I think you picked a side and stuck with it, even after it turned your life to hell. A long silence stretched between them. Then Mara whispered, I thought you were going to kill me when you got out. Lucas looked her dead in the eyes. So did I. Delta stirred beneath the table. Lucas looked down at her, his voice softer now. But she remembered. She remembered you were there that night. Mara went still. Lucas leaned in. Delta followed the scent trail from Shane's body. It didn't go to me. It didn't go to Wilkes. It went through the woods, around the barn, and stopped at the tree line. where your boots were found. Mara paled. I'm not accusing you. I'm saying you saw something. And you never said. Mara was silent for a long time. Then, it wasn't supposed to happen like that. Lucas didn't interrupt. I met Marcus out there. He told me he was going to scare Shane. Get him to back off. Said he was too close to figuring out the gun link. Marcus had borrowed it, your rifle, when I was still lying to myself about everything. He promised me Shane wouldn't get hurt. Her eyes brimmed, but no tears fell. I watched from the woods. Shane didn't even reach for his gun. Just argued. Then a shot. Then Marcus panicked. Said it was Wilkes. But I saw Wilkes across the field. Too far. It wasn't him. She met Lucas's eyes. It wasn't you either. Lucas sat back. Exhaled hard. You could have cleared me. I was scared. Lucas stared at the window again. So was I. They sat in silence. I'm sorry, she said. Lucas nodded once. So am I? He stood. Delta rose beside him. Mara didn't stop him. Just watched as he dropped some bills on the table and walked to the door. But before he left, he said one last thing. You owe it to Shane to tell the rest of the truth. Not just to me, to them. And then he was gone. 6 months later. The mailbox at the new farmhouse bore no name. Just a number, 19, faded and flaking. Inside, Lucas found a letter postmarked from Nashville. No return address. He opened it on the porch, Delta resting by his boots. Inside, a photocopy of a signed affidavit. Mara's handwriting. Sworn testimony. She had finally told everything. Marcus, the rifle, her presence at night. The DA had reopened a secondary investigation. Shane's name had been cleared of suspicion, and Delta, officially, was recognized as a key witness in an exoneration. They called her a hero in the papers. Lucas didn't care about the headlines. He sat down beside her on the porch steps and scratched behind her ears. You knew all along, he murmured. Didn't you, girl? She rested her chin on his knee. The wind carried the scent of pine in the low, steady hum of summer insects. Nothing dramatic, nothing grand, just peace. Finally,